Network. For more Red 5 Network podcasts, visit red5network.com.
Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the Science Fictionary Podcast. Give everybody just a minute to drop in here and see if anybody shows up. It's a little early in the day and a little earlier than we usually kick things off here. But Marisha is not going to be able to likely feel up for podcasting with me this week, so I'm just going to jump on in and talk about some things, primarily the new Rings of Power trailer. And I know there has just been a lot of turmoil surrounding this. It's come for various reasons. I know a lot of it has been generated. Something that just kind of really seems to be a big problem right now is actors that go on the go out there to all the local TV shows, radio shows, whatever they're going to talk about their upcoming project. And instead of talking about their project, they talk about their pet political projects, or whatever it is they're advocating for. And understandably, that turns people off from being interested in certain things. Now, should it? I don't know. Like, as a Christian, and more of a libertarian person, like, yeah, there's not a lot of people in Hollywood that agree with my opinions. And if I'm not able to separate the actor from the things they say offset, then there's not going to frankly be a whole lot of stuff for me to watch. Does that mean that I'm always able to tune out the things people say? No, because some people are just awful people and say terrible things, and then it gets harder and harder to separate them from the entertainment. But we've had one in particular. Actually, before I get going any further on that, just in case anybody is coming in, I want to thank Charles at Conversations. I have received this prestigious award, apparently. Charles and these are from ScarifCon, I believe, and thank you, Charles, for sending me this and this really cool base to display it on, and it will soon find a home back here on the shelf behind me. Maybe back there next to Smeagol. So there is one. Yeah, I mean, there have been a few things said. I guess when you have a project like this Rings of Power project, and you have the actors saying their own things, their politically motivated things up on their soapboxes, but then you have the showrunners saying essentially the same things that Peter Jackson said about, staying true to Tolkien's world, which was not filled with modern day problems and politics, and that it's very much true to the source material. Like, who do you believe? Do you believe the actors, or do you believe the showrunners? And personally, at this point, I'm going with the showrunners until I see something different. But there are a lot of people that have said different things. I think most of the actors, what they're saying is just fine. A number of them seem to be very into the lore, understand the lore. Sounds like a lot of them did a lot of researching the lore during the project. Somebody is in the chat. It's Ro. Thanks for popping in over here, Ro. So I'm seeing a lot of things being said. Now, there are a couple of people that have said things that probably shouldn't have been said when trying to sell this show, but I don't think this show has gone anywhere near like when the Eternals was coming out. Nobody said anything about the story, like when they would go on the red carpet, or when they were on the late night shows, wherever they were. The buzzword was diversity. Now, there's nothing wrong with diversity at all, but that can't be your selling point for a story. It just can't. you sell a story with the story itself, with the action, with the visuals, with the music, which I will talk about in a second because I think music is a major failing in this trailer that just dropped. Um, so there's one in particular that I do want to talk about because this has been used to bash this show for several weeks now. I really guess I guess since back during San Diego Comic Con. Um, Nazanin Baniati, and I don't know if I'm saying her name right, but she is playing the character Bronwyn in this series, and she made a couple of statements that I'm going to read her statement. So this is what she said during an interview at San Diego Comic Con. For Bronwyn, she is a healer, but she taps into her inner lioness, and I, as an activist, which of course is where everybody flips out, right? Um, as a longtime human rights activist in my homeland, Iran, I tapped into what I believe women are doing for my homeland. I played with care. In playing with character and sort of liberating and redeeming the Southlanders who, back in her ancestors' days, chose evil over good. So this is not someone telling you that, oh, I'm an activist and I'm inserting my politics into the story. This is someone telling you that I'm an activist and I'm from a place where there is extreme political turmoil and where women are, can be beaten but to death by their husbands with little to no repercussions, um, where they have little to no rights. So she's saying that her her past is influencing is what is informing the way she plays this character. Not that she's bringing her politics into the character, which is what's being accused. And I'm seeing a lot of people that are bashing this and this show before it's even out and saying this isn't Tolkien, this isn't Tolkien. Except the more I hear them talk, the more I'm convinced that most of them have never done anything beyond watch The Lord of the Rings. That they've never read any of the books, that they've certainly never read the extra stuff like the appendices and the Silmarillion, because they seem to be ill-informed on what actually goes on. And they say, well, oh, these made-up characters. Well, I'm sorry, you can't tell a story in this era without making up some characters. It's not a fleshed out world. It's a loosely written history. It's a textbook of the past. And granted, they don't even have access to the Silmarillion except maybe pieces that they picked up along the way. But they're primarily working from the appendices, which is even less information. They also don't seem to realize, I think these same people that are having a fit at this point are the same people that, so I think these people that are largely throwing a fit right now would have been pitching a fit before Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings came out. Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings takes some liberties. I love the movies. There's the greatest trilogy ever made. But they really changed quite a few things. Some that vastly changed the story. The elves showing up at Helm's Deep doesn't happen. It doesn't happen for a reason in the books. It's the way that that Frodo treats Sam and tells him to leave. There are things that change the characteristics of the story a little bit. But Peter Jackson did stay true to the overall feeling of Middle Earth, the overall themes of the story. Those are what bleed through. And right now, we don't know if this is going to or not. And I'll tell you, I'm a big enough person to admit when I'm wrong. If this series ends up being absolutely terrible, I will be right there with you, pointing out all of the things that are terrible about this story. But the bottom line is that the important parts of this story, the things that have to come through are the themes, the Christian themes, the religious themes, the story of good versus evil. This is, I know a lot of people are into very the ideas of gray characters, but the truth is that in pure high fantasy, sure, you might have some characters that walk the line for a bit, but it's a good versus evil story, particularly because it's based in Christianity, specifically Catholicism. It, it's it is good versus evil. There is nothing else. Um, I'm really excited. This trailer, other than the music selection, which was an odd choice, I think the music is already out there. Bear McCreary's music released earlier, I guess actually released last week. So we've got the music out there, and I think this trailer would have been a time to showcase some of that music rather than I don't even know what this song was, but I understand they're using that music to try to evoke a certain emotion, and that's kind of the I don't know. I feel like they're just kind of doing the popular thing with music and trailers right now, but I think it would have been better served to have showcased some of Bear McCreary's music, or even Howard Shore wrote the theme for this series, I believe. And so why not showcase that at this point? I think that would have been much better. Um, let's see, Howard Shore or Bear McCreary, because Bear McCreary is working on has done just tons and tons of music for TV and film lately. He's one of the he's one of the bigger names out there right now, especially on TV. He did a lot of the music for um, McCreary or Howard Shore. Um, Rowe. McCreary did. I believe McCreary did the Godzilla movie. The last Godzilla movie. I know he did Agents of Shield, and he's done a lot of other stuff here just recently. But I'm kind of drawing a blank on some of his. Yes, he did Battlestar Galactica and Caprica, Black Sails, Outlander. He's got a really long list of things he's done. So he's a really talented person, and I expect really big things from him. And the score, what I listened to, I didn't get a chance to listen to the whole score. It's a really long score. Sounds really good. I was kind of surprised they put it out before the show started, but they did. Um, but I do wish they would have showcased some of that music. I think it might have made things feel a little bit more like Middle Earth, like we were where we were supposed to be. But I am visually, they put the money on screen, man. It is the most expensive TV show ever made, and it looks like it, at least in what they showed us in that trailer. It looks like they really put the money on screen. My favorite thing about the trailer, I know the character of Galadriel has been one that has had a lot of people upset, even though there are Tolkien letters that indicate that having her as a warrior at some point in time is not a big deal. And I know there's some people all upset because Elrond is supposed to be the commander of the Northern armies. But I haven't seen Galadriel leading an army in this trailer, so I don't know where y'all are coming up with the idea that she has replaced Elrond in that role. Um, they can't really remove Elrond from being a commander of the armies if they want this to, in any way, shape, or form, mesh with previous movies, because we see Elrond, um, in battle with the armies of the elves. So I don't get that particular thing, but yes, I agree that like by the end of this series, we need to see Galadriel come something far beyond just someone who fights with a sword. That's really not the Galadriel we meet in Lord of the Rings. But that Galadriel is also a ring bearer. She is carrying a ring of power. She is far more powerful than just your typical elf, even your high elves at that point, because she wields a ring of power. But that being said, like, my favorite thing about this trailer is that we get this reiteration of Elrond calling for Galadriel to lay down her sword. She's fought long enough. We set up why she's fighting. She's carrying on her brother's mission, which was to hunt this evil in Middle Earth, which is, of course, going to be Sauron. Um, we see the scene, presumably where Finrod dies, and I saw people complaining about Finrod dying there, but Finrod dies in the First Age, so he's supposed to be dead at this point. So I don't understand why people are bent out of shape about that either. I think there's a lot of complaining just to complain at this point. And the ironic thing, and I'm just going to say that somebody's going to come in here and get mad at me, but I'm seeing a lot of love for the House of the Dragon. The House of the Dragon, from people that are hating on Lord of the Rings, on Rings of Power, which isn't out yet. The truth is if you want to use the word woke, if you want to talk about feminist messaging and all that, there's way more of it in that first episode of House of the Dragon that you love than is likely to be in this series at all. Which makes me think that you're disingenuous when you bash these things ahead of time. It makes me feel like this is more about targeting a specific studio, such as Disney, when Disney gets hate before they put something out. I think you're after Amazon because Tolkien has, and I will admit, Tolkien has been under fire for a number of years. First, it was that Tolkien was a racist, Tolkien was a bigot, Tolkien was all these things, and then all of a sudden, there was a shift in narrative where we said, "Oh no, Tolkien's not those things. Tolkien was one of us. He was woke. He his character. There's all these different things that they want to twist things to make Frodo and Sam homosexual or things like that. These are not things that a person that a devout Catholic would have written at the time that these books were written. So yes, Tolkien has been under fire, and it went from being under fire one way to trying to hijack and recreate Tolkien in their own in someone else's image. So yeah, I understand why people are on edge about the stuff with Tolkien, but I I'm really, based on this trailer, this is the first trailer I watched, and I was really, really excited to watch this show when it came on. And I think it's going to do well. I know I'm seeing a lot of people saying, "Oh, it's being um it's being ratioed on YouTube and all these things." Well, I don't know if that's factual or not. Especially now, it's so easy to review bomb things. But I do know that I tried to buy. They're having a limited premiere in Cinemark theaters for Cinemark members on August 31st, which is 2 days ahead of the release. We're going to be in Atlanta that night. I tried to get tickets, and it crashed the Cinemark website. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you there's not interest in this show. It's Lord of the Rings. It's one of the biggest franchises on the planet, arguably the biggest. It's People are going to watch it. Now, I hope it's good. I hope it measures up. And yes, Nick, there was a lot to hate House of Dragon for before it even came out. But ironically, I'm seeing people that usually scream about the kind of stuff that's in that show talking about it was actually pretty good. And it's like, which just tells me that for a lot of those people, if you package the same message with enough blood and gore and bare breast, they'll love it anyway. So, take that how you will. Ro or Nick, have y'all seen? Did y'all watch the new trailer today? What'd you think about it? Yeah, I think there were some things that got people unnecessarily riled up, and of course, there are people out there that exist. Their whole online personality is based on building walls between groups. So um, I'm not at all surprised that it's getting the hate it is, but I'm not sure any of it is warranted. And like I said, if this is bad, this is my one of my favorite franchises and is a really important franchise for what it is culturally. Um, if I'm not happy with what I see, if I think that they're taking and bastardizing Tolkien in this series, I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to say it. I'm not just going to sit here and love on it just because it's Tolkien. I'm going to tell you if I think it's bad. Now, does that mean I will cover it less? Probably, because I tend to not talk about a lot of things I don't like on the show. Um, but for now, I'm willing to take the showrunners at their word that they've tried to do something timeless, something not wrapped up in modern politics. Let's see. So what were some of your I think it's just Ro and Nick over here in the chat. There might be somebody else lurking, but what were some other things? What were some things y'all liked in the trailer? Because I think visually it looks like they really put the money on the screen. Jeez. But we're getting close. I mean, this is it. This is the last trailer. And I do think that there will be um maybe some. Let's see, I lost the first part of that. Um, so yeah, I mean, a lot of people are kind of upset that Celeborn hasn't appeared in any of the trailers. I don't think by any stretch that means that Celeborn is not going to be in this series. Now, I think that they're going to be restrained with how many characters they introduce right away. But I think that we're going to see Celeborn. He's too important of a character. And keep in mind that this is pre-planned for 5 seasons. So I don't believe that Celeborn is dead at the beginning of this. The only character we know of being killed off at the beginning of this for sure is Finrod, which makes sense. We're a second age story. Finrod dies near the end of the first age. So yeah, it's a good question, but I think that we're definitely going to see Celeborn probably in a later season. And let's see, what was Rose saying? See, here's the thing. What did you think, Ro? I'm actually like um I'm actually more interested in what you think about the visuals CGI wise than most people, but the there are tons of practical effects. Yeah, of course it's going to have some CGI, especially for creatures, but I mean, they built whole cities. I would say that in some ways they even went beyond what Peter Jackson did practically. They've gone back to practical costumes for the orcs, which Warner Brothers pretty much forced Peter Jackson to go digital in the Hobbit films. and that's why those films don't look as good as the Lord of the Rings films. But I thought that the CGI actually looks really good in this. I think that what CGI I've seen so far actually meshes pretty well with Peter Jackson's work. See, and that's what I want to hear, Ro. And I think that that is they're not concerned with selling this show to Tolkien purists or Tolkien people who are extremely into Tolkien's work because they're going to watch it. They may say they're not going to, but they're going to watch it. There's no Book of Boba Fett. No, it's definitely no Book of Boba Fett. I really think that they're interested in selling this through this trailer to a more casual fan. Now, of course, if you're going to say that, you can make the argument that they should have told more story in this trailer. So I would be curious what you thought about that. Since you're not as into Lord of the Rings, what did this trailer do for you story wise? Because that's one of the primary complaints I'm seeing right now after this trailer is that this trailer doesn't tell much. Now, I think it gives a real good indication of the direction of um, for Galadriel. I think that we basically are going to see her transform into the character that we meet in Lord of the Rings. Yeah, I'm pretty sure we can definitely all agree on that one, Nick. That's it wouldn't take much, but it does look better. Yeah, I'm convinced that a lot of these people like The Boys is the same thing. Like, if they were really concerned about the messages that are presented in these shows, they wouldn't like The Boys. Plain and simple. But it's gory, it's crude, uh, it's borderline. I mean, I'm not even say borderline pornographic. It's pornographic. Um, so they like it, which, like, again, just tells me that if you package the same message the right way, those people will still eat it up. Um, but yeah, I think I'm fine with the fact that they want to keep their secrets. Now there are a lot of lies being told to try to get people to not watch this series. The woman with the one that looks like Eminem in the trailers, 99%, 99.9%, that is not Sauron, like people are saying. In fact, here is a really good question, or not a question. I think that I think you're right on target here. I think it's way more likely that Halbrand is Sauron. Um, I think that it's way more likely that he's Sauron than anybody else we've met so far. Now, the only thing is, and I know they are able to go back to the Tolkien estate and basically buy piecemeal things they need. So they might not have gone back and gotten Anatar. They could be using Halbrand as the name. This character, I would think they would make this character a little more elf-like, which is kind of the way Anatar appeared um early on in at the same time, I don't disagree with you. I think that there's a strong chance that Halbrand is Sauron. This trailer actually made me think a little less that he might be, but he's still someone important. He's Halbrand is not the real name. This is someone important, and we're gonna find out later that this character is way more important than trailers have led us to believe. But you're right. The appendices do not mention the name Anatar. But they did tell us that they're able to basically go to the Tolkien estate and request rights to things from other source material as they want to use them. Doesn't mean that the estate has to grant them permissions, but it does mean that if they really wanted to use the name Anatar, they could have gone back to the estate and asked to use it. So we'll see. I'm okay if they don't use it. It's not a name that's commonly known to the general fandom anyway. Because if you've only ever read, you could be a huge Lord of the Rings fan and not know the name Anatar. So if they don't use it, I'm okay with that. Yeah, it's I'm absolutely, as someone who is familiar with the lore, I'm absolutely 100% okay with the idea that with the fact that they're not telling us a whole lot. I want to be surprised by this stuff. I think they're kind of at least setting it up like they're weaving a complicated story that's going to have some ins and outs, and some people aren't going to be exactly who we thought they were when we first meet them. So, um, but the woman that is playing what I think is a priestess of Morgoth is not Sauron, even though a lot of people are claiming that that's the case. And the showrunners and the producer have pretty much told us as much. All right. Well, I think that's about all I've got to say about it at the moment. So I'm probably going to get off here unless anybody has any other thoughts on the show or just any of the stuff surrounding it. Or if anybody's got any questions, I'd be glad to try to answer them. But yeah, we're just over a week from the release. I guess release is next Friday, Thursday or Friday. I think it's Friday. Which means I will be at Dragon Con, so that's going to complicate watching that first episode, but I will figure something out. Because I'm not gonna wait all day. If I have to get up really early before we go to the con that day, then I will do that to watch the episode. Does anybody know? Like, I don't follow enough Amazon shows to watch them as soon as they release. Does anybody in the chat know when Amazon actually releases? Do they release at midnight? Or are they more like Disney Plus? Or because Disney Plus releases at midnight Pacific. So yeah, I'll be curious to see when that release is, because that may affect when I'm able to watch it. And of course, we will do a review on it as quick as we can, but that's going to be sort of complicated at Dragon Con. But I do have some stuff coming in. I'm going to be trying to do some interviews at Dragon Con this year, and there is a huge Tolkien track at Dragon Con, and so I'm hoping to do some interviews and get some release day reactions to the story from people at the con. Yeah, so I think that put the question up on screen here. I do think I'm still a little afraid that that's going to wind up being either Saruman or Gandalf, who really shouldn't come till later. But based on some things that the showrunners were telling us about the way they're doing the time compression, I do believe that it's possible that they could have Gandalf or Saruman show up a little earlier. Now, coming by meteor would be a bit of a surprise. I'm not totally convinced that that's not Sauron. Um, I'm it could be based on some stuff about the wreath of flame that they showed us in the trailer surrounding him. There's definitely some magic there, which means he could pretty much be any of the Istari. Now, the blue wizards do come prior to the other three, the Gandalf, Radagast, and Sauron or Saruman. Um, so I do think that it's very possible that it could be one of the blue wizards, which would be interesting. The blue wizards, all of the Istari when they come are good. So if it's one of the Istari, they're going to be good. The blue wizards basically kind of turn to evil and move east. And then that's really the last we know of them for sure. Um, but even if it's Saruman showing up at this point in time, he would be good. Um, the Istari, if you're not familiar with the backstories, the Istari, the five wizards were sent by the Valar, sort of the lesser gods of Middle Earth, to to kind of guide men and elves in defeating evil, defeating Sauron. So yeah, I'm still not totally sure who I think the Meteor Man is, but I do think that it's very likely that it's one of the Astari. It's either one of the Astari or it's Sauron himself. So I guess we'll see. All right, guys. Well, I think that's going to do it for this stream. I think there may be some other Red 5 streams coming up here shortly. I'm not sure who else is live on Tuesday afternoons, but it seems like somebody ought to be going online here shortly. So as always, you can find my podcast as well as the rest of the Red 5 podcast family at Red 5 Network on Twitter. There you will find there you will find a bio link that will take you to all of the different Red 5 podcasts. You can find me running the Twitter account for this show at sci_fictionary. And you can drop us a line to sciencefictionary@gmail.com. And actually, there was something else that I wanted to talk about before I left. It is time for the 2022 Parsec Fan Awards. If you are not familiar with the Parsec Fan Awards, this is something we started last year. So now we can officially say second annual Parsec Fan Awards. This is a chance for the fans, for you and for me to nominate the movies and the TV shows that we love and that we think were award worthy. And then a little while, we're going to keep the nominations open till the end of September to make sure that we get enough people to participate to make it work. And then as soon as we close that, we should be ready to announce when we think we will be ready to do our show. You can go over to the Red 5 Network YouTube channel and find last year's show. And I will drop a link for that in the description for this one if you want to go check that out and see what it's all about. But I'm going to run this clip for you here real quick that'll give you a little bit of information. And of course, you can find everything out about the Parsec Fan Awards over at Parsec Fan Awards on Twitter. All right, guys. Well, that's going to do it. If you have any questions about the Parsec Fan Awards, feel free to hit us up at Parsec Fan Awards, or you can find me at the Science Fictionary at sci_fictionary, and find more information. Definitely go over and follow the Parsec Fan Awards Twitter account, though, because we will be posting all of the information there. Hope to see your nominations. And until next time, guys, may the force be with you.
This podcast is a member of the Red 5 Network. For more Red 5 Network podcasts and content creators, visit bio.link/Red5.